Winners move with certainty before results appear. That is the truth most people will never understand. They wait for the evidence, the applause, the external validation before they move, and that's why they never get anywhere. They want to see proof before they believe. Winners don't need proof. They are the proof. They walk into every room like the victory is already carved into their name, not because they're arrogant, because they decided to win long before anyone else could see it. The average mind wants safety. It waits, it hesitates, it looks around to see if it's okay to be confident. Winners don't look around. They walk forward, straight into the fog, because they trust their feet to land on solid ground. Most people will drown in their own doubt before life ever throws them a challenge. But winners, they live in advance. They move with intention as if the world already bent in their favor, because they know certainty is a weapon, and once you hold it, nothing can shake you. Every legend, every empire, every breakthrough was born from someone who acted with total conviction before there was a single sign of success. They weren't lucky. They were certain. Certainty isn't a feeling, it's a discipline. It's the art of making a decision and refusing to back off. People will doubt you. Life will test you. But if you've already decided in your soul that it's done, then nothing the world throws at you can stop the outcome from arriving. You see, the finish line doesn't appear to those who wait. It appears to those who run toward it blind. When you move like your success is inevitable, the world starts rearranging itself around your momentum. Doors open, people notice, resources come, but they only show up after you walk like you're already chosen. You don't need the result first. You need the identity. You have to wear the crown in your mind before they give you the throne. Most people are addicted to asking, what if it doesn't work? Winners ask, what if I never stop? Because when you move like you've already made it, failure becomes irrelevant. It's not even part of the equation. Your energy, your posture, your words, they all start commanding attention, not because you're pretending, but because you've aligned yourself with the finish line. You've locked eyes with the future and you're walking like it's already yours. You cannot lead a powerful life with a hesitant spirit. You cannot build an empire with the energy of a doubter. People can smell hesitation. The world ignores uncertainty. It rewards those who speak, move, and grind with the force of someone who has already claimed the crown. You don't need permission. You don't need confirmation. You need to move like a tidal wave, undeniable, unshakable, and absolutely sure of where you're going. Winners don't wait for a green light. They run through the red because they built the road. They don't ask, is this right? They declare, this is mine. That's why their world bends. That's why results chase them. Because the mind that moves with certainty is more dangerous than any obstacle in its path. When the storm hits, the doubters drown, but the winner, he walks on the waves, because he already saw the shoreline before the rain ever fell. Belief is nothing without relentless execution. The world is filled with people who believe they can do more, be more, achieve more, and yet they do nothing. Belief without action is a luxury for the weak. It feels good, it sounds good, but it builds nothing. It's the illusion of progress without the pain of progress. The dreamers sit in silence while the doers bleed in motion, because the universe doesn't reward intention. It rewards impact. It doesn't ask what you believe, it measures what you build. You can speak affirmations every morning. You can write your goals on mirrors and chant your visions into the air. But if your hands aren't moving, your mind is lying to you. Winners don't rely on belief. They prove it. They chase their goals until their legs give out. They wake up tired and still show up. They fail and come back harder, because belief to them is not a feeling. It's a command to act. And if you don't act, your belief was never real. It was a fantasy you were too lazy to test. Execution is the only language the world understands, not dreams, not intentions, not words. It's what you deliver that defines you. The scoreboard doesn't care about your mindset. It only reflects your output, and if you're not producing, it's because you're not hungry enough to prove what you say you believe. People with weak conviction get offended by effort. They think the grind is optional. Winners know it's everything. Don't tell me what you want. Show me your schedule. Don't talk about discipline. Let me see your scars. Belief is forged in the fire of repetition, failure, and sacrifice. Anyone can be inspired for a week. Anyone can post motivational quotes, but who can execute when it's boring, who can still push when no one claps, that's the line. That's where belief dies or becomes dangerous. You either become a worker of your words or a prisoner of your own potential. Winners don't wait for motivation to return. They don't need to feel like it. They execute with cold-blooded consistency because they understand something simple. Life pays the worker, not the dreamer. And most people, they've spent so long rehearsing the dream that they never learned how to build it. They get addicted to the feeling of one day instead of facing the war of right now. But the future only belongs to those who act like it's already overdue. You will never outdream the person who outworks you. You will never outperform the one who executes through pain, fear, and fatigue. Belief gives you vision. Execution gives you power. One without the other is like thunder without lightning, loud but powerless. You want the world to listen, then hit harder than you speak. Show up when it hurts. Move when it's silent. Build when it's lonely. That's where power is born. In the unseen hours that nobody will clap for. Belief puts your foot on the path. Execution gets you to the mountain. Without it, you're just another voice shouting from the bottom, wondering why nothing changes. But when your belief is backed by brutal, unforgiving action, everything moves. The world tilts, doors open, resistance folds, because belief without execution is a lie, but belief forged in motion, that's unstoppable. You can't earn greatness with average effort. The world doesn't hand out crowns to the convenient. It doesn't kneel for the comfortable. Average effort is a silent killer. It convinces you you're doing enough while your dreams rot in the background. Most people aren't failing because they lack talent. They're failing because they refuse to suffer. They refuse to stretch. They want the reward without the pressure, the stage without the scars, but greatness doesn't negotiate. It demands everything. Every inch of progress is paid for in pain. You want to rise above the crowd? Then do what the crowd won't. While they sleep, you grind. While they take breaks, you break limits. While they celebrate mediocrity, you build in the dark. You can't reach the top of the mountain walking like you're on vacation. You climb with blood in your mouth and fire in your chest because average effort gets you average outcomes, and you were never born for that. Effort has a language. The world can read it in your habits, your rituals, your intensity. Every rep, every early morning, every late night tells the truth about your ambition. You don't need to talk about how bad you want it if your actions scream louder than your voice ever could. And if your effort isn't separating you from the masses, then your dream isn't a dream, it's a decoration. Real ambition offends people because it shows them what they're not willing to become. There's a price to pay for greatness, and most people tap out at the toll booth. They flirt with their goals, then quit when it hurts. Winners don't flirt, they marry the grind. They stay loyal to it through setbacks, boredom, and exhaustion, because they know greatness doesn't show up when you feel inspired. It shows up when you keep swinging long after your strength is gone. You want to live like a king, then suffer like a soldier. You want respect, then earn it in silence. You don't outshine the competition by matching their energy. You rise by outworking them daily. While they give 70%, you give 110. While they slow down, you speed up. You don't compete in their lane. You build your own. That's the secret. That's the edge. Because if your effort is comfortable, your dream is in danger. And if you're still asking for balance, you're not asking for greatness. No one will remember your excuses. They will remember your results. And those results come from the moments you could have coasted, but chose to suffer instead. That's the fork in the road where legends are made. Not in the big events, not on the stage, but in the lonely hours where you push when no one's watching. That's where greatness is carved. By effort that terrifies the ordinary. Average is a disease. It spreads through lazy decisions, weak commitment, and a fear of failure. But the cure is work, ruthless, relentless, all-in work. You can't pray your way to the top. You fight for it, you bleed for it, and when your mind wants out, you remind it, nothing worth having comes without a war. Because the cost of greatness is your comfort, and most people aren't willing to pay. But if you are, if you're willing to hurt for it, suffer for it, bleed for it, then greatness will be forced to open the door. Not because you knocked politely, but because you kicked it off the hinges with the power of your obsession. Grind when no one's watching, that's where legends are made. The spotlight doesn't make you great. It only reveals what you built in the shadows. People crave recognition but avoid the silence. They want applause without earning bruises. But the ones who rise, the ones who last, are forged in the hours when the world is asleep and the room is dead quiet. That's when it happens. That's where the difference is born, not in front of the crowd, but behind closed doors where only discipline speaks. If you only work when it's convenient, you'll never build anything permanent. If you only show up when it feels good, you'll only get what's easy, and nothing easy is ever worth remembering. The real work is ugly, repetitive, boring, and exhausting. That's why most people run from it. They want variety, motivation, stimulation. Winners want results, and they know results are buried deep in the dark, far from cameras, far from comfort, far from anyone cheering them on. That's where they dig night after night. There's no audience in the gym before dawn, no fans in the library at midnight, no applause echoing in the silence of a 14-hour grind session. That's where the giants separate themselves. That's where average men quit and future legends keep moving. Because it's not about being seen, it's about being ready when the world finally looks your way. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your preparation, and if your preparation was weak, you've already lost. What you do in the silence screams in public. You cannot fake the work. You cannot pretend to be elite. When it's time to perform, your preparation will speak for you. If you skipped steps, it'll show. If you cut corners, it'll collapse. The only way to dominate the stage is to suffer in the shadows. And the ones who embrace the unseen grind, they become unstoppable. Because they no longer need validation. Their fuel is their vision. Their reward is their growth. Grinding in silence teaches you who you are. No one's there to clap, so you learn to clap for yourself. No one's pushing you, so you become your own engine. That's how real strength is built, not through praise, but through pressure. And when the lights finally come on, the crowd doesn't see the hours, the tears, the sweat. They just see dominance, and they call it talent. They call it luck, but you'll know the truth. You earned it while they were asleep. Most people want to be great in public without being consistent in private. They want the rewards of effort they never gave. They want to look successful without acting successful when it's hard. But that's not how anything legendary is born. You want to shine, then grind until the darkness becomes your comfort zone. Grind until silence feels like a challenge you're hungry to meet. Grind until the world's applause feels quieter than your own inner fire. You don't become elite by doing what's expected. You become elite by doing what's required, and most of what's required happens with no audience. No comfort, no help. That's the price. That's the process. It's brutal, but it's honest. The grind strips away your weakness, exposes your excuses, and hardens your will. Only the obsessed survive it. And only the relentless rise from it. If you're not willing to suffer when no one's watching, you'll never deserve the spotlight. If you're not training in silence, you're preparing for failure in noise. Because every crown is first earned in isolation. Every championship is decided in the hours that feel invisible, and only those who stay hungry in the dark ever taste victory in the light. Performance outweighs potential every time. The world doesn't care how gifted you are if you don't deliver when it counts. Talent is everywhere. Grit is rare. Potential is the most overrated currency on earth because it means nothing if it stays locked inside your mind. You can be the most capable person in the room, but if you don't show up with results, you'll get passed by someone who was hungrier than you. The scoreboard doesn't display dreams, it reflects actions. People fall in love with potential because it feels good. It gives them something to hide behind when they're not producing. They say things like, "I could be great," or "one day I'll prove it." But they never do, because they're addicted to the idea of who they might be instead of doing the work to become who they must be. No one fears your potential. They fear your execution. They fear the day you stop talking and start delivering. Until then, you're just a possibility, and possibilities don't win. Performers do. Potential doesn't intimidate the world. pressure-tested performance does. It's not what you're capable of that matters. It's what you consistently do when it's hard, when it's ugly, when there's no momentum. That's what separates the talkers from the doers. You can impress people with your ambition, but you impact them with your results. Don't tell the world who you are, make it undeniable by showing what you've done, because no one can argue with proof. The ones who rise are the ones who stop chasing recognition and start chasing mastery. They don't care about being known, they care about being dangerous. Dangerous because they can execute at a level no one else can touch. They've built their reputation through relentless repetition, not recycled motivation. They know the work speaks louder than any excuse. They don't ask for more time, they ask for more pressure. Because pressure creates power, and power is earned through performance, not potential. Every industry is filled with people who had potential but lacked urgency. They waited for the right time, they wanted it to feel perfect, but performance isn't about waiting. It's about delivering when you're not ready. It's about being reliable even when your mind is screaming for comfort. That's the edge, that's the killer instinct. It's the discipline to rise when everyone else is resting. It's the mindset that says, no one will outwork me because no one needs this more than I do. The difference between average and unstoppable is that the average man hides behind what he could do, while the unstoppable one proves it in silence, over and over again, until there's no doubt left. He doesn't hope the world will recognize him. He forces the world to take notice. His performance becomes undeniable. His name becomes synonymous with results, not because he talked about his potential, but because he backed it with ruthless consistency. You can't fake performance. It exposes the truth. It reveals who put in the work and who just posted about it. You can fool your friends, you can fool social media, but you can't fool results. They will always reflect the truth. That's why the elite don't spend their time explaining, they spend their time executing, because they know the only language the world respects is action. The only proof anyone believes is performance. If you want to be respected, stop selling your potential and start delivering outcomes. If you want to lead, show them something they've never seen. And if you want to dominate, perform like your life depends on it. Because in the world of greatness, it does. Potential is silent, performance is loud. Be the one they can't ignore. Be the one whose work speaks so violently, the world has no choice but to listen. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and domination. Without it, talent collapses. Without it, ambition evaporates. Discipline is not motivation's cousin. It's motivation's replacement. Because motivation is a liar, it shows up when it wants to. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It commands your actions. The people who rise don't feel like it every day. They act like it's war every day. Discipline builds when motivation disappears, and the ones who embrace that become unstoppable. Most people wait for the right time, the right mood, the right conditions, but the right time never comes and the mood fades fast. Discipline doesn't care about weather or mood swings. It cares about consistency. It lives in your calendar, not your emotions. It shows up through fatigue, heartbreak, failure, and boredom. Because discipline doesn't need to be inspired. It needs to be obeyed. It's the ruthless voice that says, go again. When your body is broken and your mind begs for mercy, you can't buy discipline. You can't fake it. You either have it or you're still making excuses. The undisciplined chase shortcuts. The disciplined build legacies. One day at a time, brick by brutal brick, they outlast the talkers. While everyone else is drifting, they're drilling. While others sleep in, they're sharpening their edge. You'll never see greatness without discipline, because without it, you won't survive the process required to become great. Discipline is the gatekeeper between average and savage. The weak blames circumstances, the strong build structure. Discipline is the structure. It's not loud or flashy, it's not glamorous or viral, but it's powerful. Because it creates momentum when everything else falls apart. It's the only reason champions are consistent. You think they always feel like pushing, they don't, but their discipline doesn't need permission from their feelings. It doesn't negotiate, it doesn't flinch, it doesn't compromise. That's what makes it lethal. Discipline makes the difference when talent is equal. It separates the contenders from the pretenders, because eventually everyone runs out of motivation. Everyone hits a wall, and when that wall comes, most turn back, but the disciplined don't stop. They break through. They don't slow down because it's hard. They lean in because it's hard. That's the shift. That's the mentality that builds monsters. Discipline isn't about pushing once. It's about pushing forever. You don't wake up with discipline. You build it in the dark, through repetition, through sacrifice, through doing the thing you don't want to do over and over until it becomes part of who you are, until quitting feels unnatural, until ease feels like poison, until you stop waiting for the right moment and start moving like time is running out. Because it is, and if you don't act now, someone with less talent but more discipline will bury you. Discipline is what shows up after you've failed, after you've cried, after you've lost. It says get back up and do it again, no matter what. It doesn't need praise. It doesn't need proof. It is the proof. It is the system that gets you there when everything else collapses. It's the armor you wear when life hits back, the edge you hold when everyone else crumbles. And once you master it, you become dangerous, because now your results aren't based on mood, they're based on mission. The undisciplined live on highs and crash with lows. The disciplined are constant, focused, obsessed with consistency. That's what makes them deadly in a world of distractions. That's what allows them to do in a year what others don't in a lifetime, because they don't need to feel ready. They decide to be ready. They don't need to be inspired. They are driven by demand. They don't need applause. They are fueled by pressure, and they never, ever negotiate with weakness.